Good day, everyone. In this video, the group and I will discuss the reporting requirements of the Department of Budget and Management under the National Budget Circular Number 550. Before we finally start with the presentation, here are the topics that will be mainly discussed. First, we will know the reporting requirements set by the Department of Budget and Management, also known as DBM, as well as the documents or reports which are required by the DBM to be submitted on a regular basis, namely the Budget Execution Documents or BED and the Budget and Financial Accountability Reports or BFAR. Without further ado, let's begin. Per National Budget Circular Number 550 dated October 29, 2013, the Department of Budget and Management requires national government agencies to submit on a regular basis the following. First is the Budget Execution Documents or BED. Second, the Budget and Financial Accountability Reports or BFAR. To understand this, let's define these two requirements. First is the Budget Execution Documents. These documents contain the agency's targets and plans for a fiscal year. When we say budget execution, it is the process of monitoring, adjusting, and reporting on the current year's budget. It is the process by which the financial resources made available to an agency are directed and controlled toward achieving the purposes and objects for which budgets were approved. Budget execution procedures are essential as this ensures that fiscal targets are effectively enforced and that managers comply with the budget authorized by the legislature. Secondly, is the Budget and Financial Accountability Reports. These reports, on the other hand, contain information on the agency's actual accomplishments and performance for a given period. These required reports show how agencies used their funds and identify their corresponding physical accomplishments. This may include quarterly physical and financial reports of operations, quarterly income reports, a monthly statement of allotments, obligations, and balances, and lastly are monthly reports of disbursements. These reports are essential because they are used to monitor and they provide the necessary information to the President and fiscal agencies to craft sound policy decisions. So, let's discuss further these two requirements, starting with the Budget Execution Documents. According to NBC number 555, dated October 28, 2014, submission of budget execution plans and targets for fiscal year 2015, all departments, agencies, operating units are mandated to prepare the budget execution documents based on the 2015 National Expenditure Program or NEP, without waiting for the approval of the General Appropriation Act and submit them to DBM not later than November 30, 2014. The plans, targets, and schedules to be reflected in the annual budget execution documents will guide agencies in the early implementation of priority programs and projects. If upon approval of the General Appropriation Act or GAA, there are changes made by Congress from the NEP, such as decrease, increase, or modifications for existing programs and projects or introduction of new items, the agencies, operating units shall identify affected program, activity, and projects or PAP, and major financial outputs or MFOs, and targets to be adjusted. Accordingly, the department or agencies concerned shall submit their revised plans highlighting the adjustments using the same budget execution documents forms on or before January 7, 2015. Now, as prescribed in this circular, the following budget execution documents shall be submitted. First, BED number 1, Financial Plan or FP. Second, BED number 2, Physical Plan or PP. Third, BED number 3, Monthly Disbursement Program or MDP. And fourth, BED number 4, Annual Procurement Plan for Common Use Supplies and Equipment or APPCSE. Now to further understand this, let us hear from Ms. Mokamad as she discusses these requirements.
Okay, so as for the continuation of the first reporter, there are 4 requirements of budget execution documents or BEDs that shall be submitted. So first is BED number 1 or the financial plan. So the financial plan contains the operating units or agencies' performance in the current year and plans during the budget year. In terms of obligation program, consistent with its budget level per National Expenditure Program or the NEP inclusive of automatic appropriations for the budget year. So financial plans serve as the overall financial plan of the department or agency or operating units. So the financial plan shall be submitted to the Department of Budget and Management or the DBM on or before November 15 for non-regionalized departments or agencies, or November 29 for regionalized departments or agencies of the current year. So this form shall likewise be filled up separately and submitted to DBM to support SPRs covering multi-users, special purpose funds such as miscellaneous personal benefits fund, pension and gratuity fund, and national disaster risk reduction management fund. So upon effectivity of the General Appropriation Act or DGAA, in case there were any changes made by Congress, for instance, a decrease on the NEP level, the operating units or agency concerned shall submit a revised financial plan within 7 working days after approval of DGAA. So second is the BED number 2 or the physical plan. So physical plan shall contain the performance indicators and targets of the department or agency consistent with the performance information embodied in the National Expenditure Program or the NEP, such as for operations, the performance indicators by major final outputs or the MFOs, for major programs and projects committed to the President and closely monitored by the Presidential Management Staff, and for other projects, consider those milestones indicated in the approved project profile. So physical plan rather serve as the overall physical plan of the department or agencies or operating units. BED number 3 or the Monthly Disbursement Program or the MDP shall be used by DBM as the basis for determining the monthly level of notices of cash allocations or the NCAs and the other disbursement authorities to be issued to department or agency or the operating units. So it shall reflect the total cash and non-cash program for the budget year by type of fund category, by allotment class, and by type of disbursement authority as follows. So for notice of cash allocations or the NCA for cash requirements of departments or agencies, central, regional or provincial offices and OUs through the authorized government serving banks of the MDS, and for cash disbursement ceiling for authorized disbursement charge against income collected and retained by the Foreign Service Post of DFA and DOLE. For non-cash availment authority or the NCAA for the cost of goods sold and cost of goods and services paid directly by lending institutions to creditors of the NGAs implementing a foreign assisted project, and tax remittance advice or the TRA for the remittance of withheld taxes computed or estimated as for personal services or PS, so it is salaries only, with the interest of 8%, and for maintenance and other operating expense or the MOOE and capital outlay or the CO with 5% interest. And lastly, the others for tax expenditures such as custom duties and taxes, BTR, document stamp, or etc. So the total cash program to be covered by NCA for the budget year shall approximate the disbursement arising from the following sources such as budget year, automatic appropriation, and prior year's obligations. And for the non-cash program, the budget year shall comprise the monthly requirements for all disbursements other than those covered by NCAs such as the TRA, NCAA, CDC, debt service, and TEF. And lastly is the BED number 4 or the Annual Procurement Plan for Common Use, Supply, and Equipment or the APPCSE. So this shall serve as both the work and financial plan for the procurement of common use supplies and equipment. So the department or agencies or operating units shall consider the CSE as the agency procurement request for the purpose of ordering said items. So it used the APP CSE as one of the bases in preparing the MDP and ensures strict compliance with Republic Act Number 9184 and its implementing rules and regulations or the IRR. So the APP CSE shall also reflect the monthly quantity and cash requirements by items categorized into available at procurement services stores and other items not available at procurement service but regularly purchased from other sources. So the quarterly cash requirements as reflected in the APP CSE, which form part of the APP, shall serve as the guide of the agency for payment of purchases made and shall be reflected both in BED number 1 or the financial plan and BED number 3 from or the monthly disbursement program.
Good day, everyone. Let's proceed to the Budget and Financial Accountability Reports. As prescribed by the Department of Budget and Management and Commission on Audit, and with the adoption of the General Appropriation Act as a release document, the Unified Accounts Code structure, the Philippine Public Sector Accounting Standards, and the integration of the Performance-Informed Budget in year 2014, there is a growing need to adapt to these innovations in relation to the harmonized budget and financial accountability reports. It is to effectively report, monitor, and evaluate agency performance versus plans and targets, which shall serve as basis for sound policy decision. Let's proceed to the requirements of BFARs to be submitted. The guidelines prescribing the use of modified formats of the BFARs, dated July 2, 2014, we affirm 9 reports or documents are required for submission to the DBM and COA under Joint Circular Number 2014-1. First, let's have the Quarterly Physical Report of Operation or QPRO under bar number 1. This report reflects the department's or agency's actual physical accomplishment as of a given quarter in terms of performance measures indicated in its physical plan in bed number 2. This shall be submitted to COA and DBM within 30 days after the end of quarter. Failure to submit reports required under the circular shall be subject to the provision of Section 57, Chapter 6, Book 6 of Executive Order Number 292 or Administrative Code of 1987. Second, Statement of Appreciation, Allotments, Obligations, Disbursement, and Balances under FAR Number 1. This report reflects the authorization appreciation, authorized appreciation and adjustments, total allotments, total obligations, total disbursement and balances of unreleased appropriations, unobligated allotments and unpaid obligations of a department, office, agency by fund, cluster, and by allotment class. It is presented by the following. First, the fund authorization. One of the key measures of the Securities and Futures Commission to protect investors. By authorizations, the SFC seeks to ensure that investment products, including funds, meet the regulatory requirements and provide adequate information in the product offering documents for investors to make informed investment decisions. Second, major financial output or MFO, a good or service that our department is mandated to deliver to external clients through implementation of programs, activities, and projects. Next is program, activity, project or PAP, and lastly is the major program projects. Third, we have here the summary of appreciations, allotments, obligations, disbursement, and balances by object of expenditures under 4 number 1-A. It is prepared by fund cluster and shall reflect the summary of appreciations, allotments, obligations, disbursement, and balances detailed by object of expenditures consistent with the COA revised chart of accounts per COA Circular Number 2013-002 dated last January 30, 2013 and conversion from the Philippine Government Chart of Accounts to the revised chart of accounts, additional accounts, or revised description of accounts per COA Circular Number 2014-003 dated last April 15, 2014. And these shall be submitted to COA and DBM within 30 days after the end of each quarter. Also, failure to submit this report required under circular shall be submitted to the provision of Section 57, Chapter 6, Book 6 of Executive Order Number 292 or Administrative Code of 1987. These indicate that failure on the part of agency heads, chief accounts, and other responsible officers of departments, and such other reports as may be necessary and required by the Department of Budget shall automatically cause the suspension of payments of their salaries until they have complied with the requirements of the Department of Budget. No appropriation authorized in the General Appropriations Act shall be made available to pay salary of any official of employee who violates the provisions of this section, in addition to any disciplinary action that may be instituted against such erring official or employee.
Hello and good day. My name is Eideliela Paguital and I will continue to discuss the requirements of budget and financial accountability reports to be submitted. Number 4. List of allotments and sub-allotments for number 1B. This report shall reflect the allotments released by the Department of Budget and Management and the sub-allotments issued by the agency central office or the regional office and their corresponding numbers, date of issuance, and amount by allotment class and by fund cluster. The total allotments per this report shall be equal to the allotments appearing in the Statement of Appropriations, Allotments, Obligations, Disbursement, and Balances or the SAA-ODB for number 1. This shall be submitted to the Commission on Audit and Department of Budget and Management within 30 days after the end of each quarter. So, in other words, this report should track the actual disbursements of the departments or agency against their disbursement program, and the reason for over and underspending should be indicated. Number 5. Statement of approved budget, utilizations, disbursements, and balances. For number 2, for off-budget fund. This report should reflect the approved budget, utilizations, disbursements, and balances of the agency authorized by the law using their income, such as OWA, and approved by the Board of Trustees and Regents. This shall be submitted to the Commission on Audit and Budget and Department of Budget and Management within 30 days after the end of each quarter. Number 6. Summary of approved budget, utilizations, disbursements, and balances by object of expenditures or the SABUD-BOE for number 2A for off-budget fund. This report shall reflect the details of the approved budget, utilizations, disbursements, and balances of the agency authorized by the law using their income. represented by object of expenditures consistent with the Commission on Audit revised chart of accounts. Also, this shall be submitted on the Commission on Audit and Department of Budget and Management within 30 days after the end of each quarter. Number 7. Aging of due and demandable obligations for number 3. This report shall be prepared by the fund cluster and shall reflect the balance of unpaid obligations as indicated in the obligation, request, and aging of due and demandable obligations as of end year. This shall be submitted to the Commission on Audit and Department of Budget and Management on or before the 30th day of the following end of the year.
Moving on to the next requirement, which is the monthly report of disbursement, or also known as FAR number 4. This report shall reflect the total disbursement made by the department, office, or agency and operating unit by fund cluster from the following disbursement authorities, such as Notice of Cash Allocation, NCA for Working Fund issued by Bureau of Treasury as an advance funding from loan or grant proceeds in favor of an agency, tax remittance advice issued, cash disbursement ceiling issued by departments with foreign-based agencies or units, non-cash availment authority, others like custom duties and taxes, Bureau of Treasury, and documentary stamp. This report shall track the actual disbursement of the departments or agencies against their disbursement program, and the reason for over or underspending shall be indicated. This shall be submitted to COA and DBM on or before the 13th day of the following month covered by the report. Moving on to the last requirement, which is the quarterly report of revenue and other receipts, or also known as the FAR number 5. This shall reflect that report on actual revenue and other receipts of the agency or operating units for the current year presented by quarter and by specific sources consistent with the COA revised chart of account. These shall be submitted to COA and DBM within 30 days after the end of each quarter. Let's proceed to the consolidation of quarterly reports procedure. So to allow sufficient time in the consolidation of quarterly report, the following procedure shall be observed. Under the lower operating units like field offices, district offices, and provincial offices, they shall submit directly the report to their COA audit team leader and DBM regional office concerned in the case of DPWH, DOH, SUCS, DepEd, TESDA, and CHED. However, for consolidation purposes, they shall likewise furnish their regional office and agency central office copies of the report within 5 days after the end of each quarter. And for the regional office, they shall prepare a consolidated report covering the report of the region and its lower operating unit, then submit the same to the agency central office and COA or COA GAS within 10 days after the end of each quarter. And lastly, for the agency central office, they shall prepare an overall consolidated report of the department or agency and submit the report to the central office of DBN and COA GAS within 30 days after the end of each quarter. In case of non-submission of the said reports, payment of salaries of the concerned budget officer or head or of budget unit and the chief accountant or head of accounting unit or their authorized representatives shall be automatically suspended from the time the report are due until they are received by COA and DBM. In addition to suspension of salary as provided above, any violation of this joint circular without justifiable cause for 3 consecutive times during the calendar year by the officials concerned shall be ground for administrative disciplinary action subject to pertinent civil service rules and regulation. That will be all. Thank you.